So you guys just want me to tell you what I saw, right? Okay. I was walking in Soho, between Worcester and Broome Street, just minding my own business like any other day, when I saw it. It was the new Celine store by Hedi Slimane, and it was horrifying. You're not gonna show my face, right? I went inside, and it was all minimal, white marble interior with two simple racks of clothes, one men's, women's, all unadorned, rocker chic, with a wall of zip leather boots to the far left. I've never been so afraid in my life. It was identical to the Saint Laurent store, only a few blocks away from the new Celine spot. I didn't know what to say. I still don't know what to think. How could this have happened? Who let this happen in fashion? When will it stop? I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't be a part of this.
With the retail release of Hedi Slimane's collection at Celine hitting stores, it has become increasingly obvious that Saint Laurent under Kering needs to do something completely different. Since Hedi left Saint Laurent behind, Kering appointed designer Anthony Vaccarello, and he has essentially remained down the same course. The branding has remained the same with the logo, the interiors of the stores have remained the same, and essentially we see collections that are realistically very much like Hedi Slimane's Saint Laurent. It's still a lot of dark black colors, a rocker aesthetic with slimmer silhouettes, with kind of extravagant embroidery or like sequences on coats and items. The whole aesthetic of the collections are essentially the same, and the aesthetic of the interior retail spaces has remained the same. If you are somebody who's interested in that look, if you fell in love with Hedi Slimane's Saint Laurent Paris, it seems like you would go to Celine. I wonder is there any legal repercussions to Hedi essentially designing a brand for Kering at Saint Laurent Paris and then taking that almost entirely and moving it over to Celine, from the kind of the aesthetic of the clothes to the designs to there's like a teddy jacket for Celine now, and just the last straw being these new Celine stores look identical to the Saint Laurent stores. What is Anthony gonna do to change things? I don't think they can continue going down the road they're doing, where they were kind of safe in wanting to maintain Saint Laurent's success in sales and wanted to continue selling what they were making. But now it seems like it's as if Steve Jobs was at Apple and he made the iPhone, and then he left Apple to go to a different company and he started creating products for that other company, but then Apple tried to continue doing its same thing. Obviously, there's so many people involved in all of these projects, and we just focus on like these leaders, these creative directors, but realistically, I feel like a buyer is going to be interested in the person who kind of ushered in that first idea, who kind of had that special touch, able to make that concept trendy and cool and sexy and sellable. It's a moral quandary, no doubt about that. Mind-boggling that Hedi Slimane would come to Celine and say, I'm just gonna do the same thing. It's still, even though there was a big similarity between his work at Dior and his work at Saint Laurent, you could still see how, like, where he ended at Dior and where he ended at Saint Laurent, there was maybe not dramatic difference, but there was some kind of aesthetic difference, some kind of different vibe. Right now at Celine, the only difference kind of feels like that instead of looking at like indie rock of the 2000s as his inspiration from Saint Laurent, he's looking at like new wave of the 80s as his inspiration for Celine, but the garments aren't very different. The silhouettes are only vaguely different. He's a designer known for making very subtle changes, and that can be a good thing. It can be good to be consistent and to work within one mold and to kind of change things very subtly in a way that kind of will have ramifications for the entire collection. But what he's doing at Celine, I wonder if it is legally in some way stealing. If he even has the rights to whatever he created at Saint Laurent, can he truly just take it and go to another place and say, I'm doing the same thing? For what it's worth, obviously, Anthony at Saint Laurent Paris right now needs to wake up, he needs to change what he's doing. Maybe Saint Laurent and like the whole curing team needs to go, okay, well, we can't continue down this road anymore. We need to take the brand in a completely different direction. And I think it's kind of like what happened after Tom Ford left Gucci. They tried to kind of continue the sexy, sensual, very glossy and luxurious brand that Tom Ford established at Gucci, but it was never as commercially successful. It was never as influential in design. It was only until Alessandro Michele came into Gucci and said, I'm gonna do some 70s influence stuff, but I'm doing it in a completely different way. And what happened is he established new trends, he established a new direction for the brand, he made it cool again by going against whatever it was established. You have to, as a designer it seems, you have to create your own path. If you try to follow the path of the previous designers who revamped the brand or who were responsible for the brand, it's not going to be creatively interesting, and in all likelihood, it's going to suffer financially. And I think that Kering was okay with Anthony kind of continuing what he was doing at Saint Laurent because they were still making huge sales. They were still a giant among luxury fashion because of the reputation that Hedi Slimane established for them. But I think now it's going to be a diminishing returns problem where they're not going to see the same, the customers are going to start to go to Celine and go back to Hedi Slimane. I think Anthony has a better sense for designing for women. He's done a better job at Saint Laurent, and he came with his experience at Versace, where he did more sexy, like Italian designs. But I think that they need to, either Anthony needs to take hold of what's going on and say, okay, we gotta radically change kind of our direction, or I bet Kering is going to say, we might need to appoint somebody new now that we're competing essentially with Hedi Slimane, who's doing exactly the same thing. So please, if you liked this shocking documentary about the similarities, write in the comments below about what you think the similarities between Celine and Saint Laurent, what you think that maybe they need to do in order to change things up. I know Saint Laurent still gets a lot of, they're still a major player in the luxury space doing this kind of rocker chic thing that Hedi Slimane established, but they need to change things. So let me know what you think below, and thank you for tuning in once again.